Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dean Rogers. Welcome back to the Dean Rogers Show. Today, we've got a very special guest, Mr. Omar Alfaro. What's up, Omar?
What's up, Dean? Thanks for having me, man. What's happening?
Man, just excited to dive into your story, man. Learn more about you and talk about your journey. For those of you that don't know Omar, you can you can hear him talk about his story today, where he started out as an agent, became a really good agent, and then you started to buy houses at the listing
Hmm.
appointments.
Right?
And then you started holding properties in 2010.
Yeah.
And now you've got 62 doors in California and Arizona. So I'm excited to kind of go through that journey. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people. Most of the people in the industry start out as realtors, right? Maybe not as investors. So I think how you wore both those hats, how you navigated that will be great to go through. For people that want to connect with you, you can find Omar at Invest with Omar on Instagram. So make sure you reach out there. He's got lots of great content, and make sure you connect with them. So let's dive right
Awesome.
into it, man. Let's just start talking about how you started out with an agent and what that looked like. Like, why'd you even get into it?
As a matter of fact, yeah, thanks for that intro too, Dean. Appreciate it.
Of
Yeah,
course.
man, I just wanted to make money, you know? I think everybody that wants to get into the game of real estate, you want to make that commission check. And I was selling cell phones, and if you guys know that little Nextel phone, which was phenomenal, I was selling in my area a bunch of Nextel phones. And literally I was sitting at a bar, which is our restaurant here in town. And somebody came in and said, "Hey, you want to sell real estate?" And I said, "Sure, why not?" And passed the test. And I said, "Well, what do you do? Like, you just sell houses, you show people houses, you help people sell their homes." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, we can make some money." And at that point, man, this was 2002. So I've been licensed for a minute, and our commission checks were, 3 grand, 4 grand. That's all I was trying to do, is trying to make money so I wouldn't have to wait tables anymore at my parents' restaurant. And when I came back from Vegas as a bartender, um, I needed to get a job. So I waited tables with my parents, and then I got my real estate license, and really didn't have the luxury that we all have right now, like podcasts like this and education on YouTube and figuring this out. And you can Google this or chat GPT that, and it'll help you get through your business. Back then, it wasn't like that. Our MLS, for the people that are watching, was a 3 ring binder that people would have to put in the new properties that were for sale in 2002, 3, 4. And yeah, got licensed, started representing a lot of buyers, learning the game, have a few scars in the back from people backstabbing me in the very beginning. I was a young kid, 24 years old, but the crazy part was that the closest person in age group was 50 years old as a real estate agent. And once I figured out that I was playing with some snakes, I had to figure out how to do things a different way. And that's what I did. Just try to make more connections, dialing from phone books, door knocking, and knew the game before that boom. I don't know how long you've been in the business for, Dean, but as an agent, we saw that crazy boom in 2006 and 7, and I was already 5 years in, so I kind of knew the game a little bit. But what I understood at that point was that all these people that are in my database, I was getting people from the restaurant buying houses and using me and stuff. So I just became really good at the relationship aspect of the business of it. And then when the economy fell in 2007 and 8, you couldn't give away houses. We had listings for 30, 40,000 bucks. I had an REO account. And banks were giving me a bunch of properties to sell that would sit there for months at 30, 40, 50, 60,000 bucks. I then at that point became aware of hard money lending. 12%, 4 points at the
4 points.
time because nobody was lending. And to
Yeah.
think about it, 30, 40, $50,000 houses, you're not going to charge 1 point and only charge, 500 bucks,
Yeah.
right? To lend out the money. So it was 4 points. Um, Bought a few properties then, in 2009 and 10. And that's kind of when I went ham. I represented a lot of buyers, right, that wanted these houses, but I kept in touch with all that database. So then when the market changed, I then represented a bunch of sellers at the time because they all went from buying to selling and, started selling 100 houses a year as an agent and used that money to buy more real estate. And fast forward to today, um, started investing in 2009 and 10, flipping houses, and then started keeping some doors. And yeah, they do say, Dean, and I'm sure you've heard it plenty of times, that it's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Hmm.
And that's where you start developing more wealth as you hold property for years on years, compounded over, 10, 15 years. I have houses that I've bought for 40, 50 grand that I still own today that have paid me 400K. Plus I still have the asset and, all the cash flow that comes in. So yeah, it, there's more and more on this, man, but I don't want to bore everybody with my story. I'm sure there's, other things that you can pull out of me asking some questions and go from there.
So were you one of the fortunate few that didn't get wrecked by the market crash? Were you not yet investing?
I did invest. Funny story. I did buy a house at 24 years old. I got licensed at 23. So a year later, I bought a house in 2003. Um, Kept it, but I ATM'd it like everybody else. So I did lose some money. I didn't lose a house. I did lose some money because I ATM'd my house for an Escalade, for trips to Vegas, for this and for that, because obviously the market's appreciating. I didn't really know what I was doing. And, but to answer your question, formally, I did not get wrecked by the 2007 and 8, you know, crash. My bank account did, meaning like I wasn't making that much money because we went from $7,000, $8,000 paychecks, right, to 1,500 to $2,000 paychecks because of the price points. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense. Because most people
yeah,
I talk to that got started before the last big market crash, most people got wrecked, filing bankruptcy, losing everything, and had to start all over and dig themselves out of a big hole. Um, so yeah, no, you saw the negative effects, the market shifting, it being
mhm,
tough, having to navigate it. And it was like no other market cycle we've seen anytime soon or anytime recent.
yeah, no way.
Um, so to get started in the business in 9 and 10, that's pretty incredible. Because like you said, you bought some crazy good deals.
Mhm.
Uh, and from what I've heard from the stories is that deals were everywhere, but money wasn't.
Ever. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So,
And
and unless you just
yeah.
have unlimited funds, then you can just stare these deals at them in the face, but you can't really do much about it.
Dean, to be honest, man, there were so many transactions that I wish I had the connections I have now, obviously, in 2009. We'd be in a different scenario. We'd have like 500 doors, um, you know, bought half of freaking my area, right? Because it was free money. I mean, it was not free money. I should say free houses with no
Yeah.
money available.
Yeah.
And literally that's when the relationships hit. And I would tell every single soul that was that I was waiting tables on, because obviously real estate's not every single month you're making a paycheck. As a real estate agent, no. Like there's 2, 3 months you don't go with no checks.
Yeah.
So I had to offset that and I was still waiting tables with my parents, but that was my database. That was the people I was asking, like, hey, what do you do with that beautiful freaking Amex Gold card? back in the day, like I would ask the question and they say, yeah, I'm in real estate and stuff. And say, oh, that's cool. Like, can you any pointers? This, that, and the other. And they sold the property. And I asked, like, do you ever lend on it? Would you mind lending on a property if I want to bring you on? These are customers.
Right.
And and a customer gave me 50 grand.
You weren't shy, huh?
No, it was not. I mean, you won't know unless you ask. So, um, yeah, somebody gave me 50 grand and we're still friends to this day. And I consider him a very, very, awesome mentor. And, he helped me get one of my first properties that I still own today on Viento. And it's rented out for $1,400 a month, been cash flowing ever since. And I paid $38,000 for it in 2009.
Wow.
And I still own it today, and that baby's been like golden. So
Yeah.
never gonna sell
That's your firstborn baby right there.
it for sure.
Yeah.
And then the real one came later.
Yep.
When I was 27. So yeah,
Yep.
it was cool.
So dude, you get started, you start doing your deals. How'd you get into Arizona? So I see you got, your doors in California. How'd you get into the Arizona market? Because I think a lot of people get shiny object syndrome. They want to start going into other places. What has that been like for you buying stuff in other markets?
Well, that's the only market that I'm in, and as a matter of fact, how it went down, Dean, I had a property in Victorville that we were, fixing up and we were reselling. It was a flip. I get a phone call from a neighbor, and the neighbor said, "Hey, we want this house for my grandma, but she has another house in Arizona. Can you trade?" And at this point, I'm like, "Yeah, I guess, cool. I mean, let me know the address, right?" And I ran the numbers, and I'm like, "Okay, it seems like a good deal." So I bought in Lake Havasu in 2014. Um, I think that was 14, yeah, 14 or 15. And I picked it up for 200K. So I took some of the money from the house in Victorville that her grandma wanted. So I bought her house for her to buy our flip in Victorville. And then I bought a house that I'd never been to, Lake Havasu City in Arizona. And I saw the appreciation there after I purchased it. I'm like, huh. And mind you, Dean, I never rented it out. I didn't Airbnb it, didn't rent it out.
Hmm.
I had it furnished. It was our little vacation rental that we would go to as a family. My dad loved going there. He like detached from like the work, being a restaurateur, and we had that property for like 3 years without ever Airbnb in it. And then 2019, I think I want to say it was July of 2019. I'm like, I think we should probably Airbnb this because I'm looking at this appreciation, looking at the market. I'm like, huh, okay, let's try it. Then I Airbnb'd that property in 2019, and we saw a crazy amount of increase, man. And then 2020, I bought three more. In the very beginning stages of not even in COVID,
In Lake
I just
in Lake
decided,
Havasu?
yeah. And
Oh
we got
wow.
5 properties there, and it's it's crazy how that projection went through the roof because of COVID. Everybody wanted to get out, so what did everybody do? They wanted to buy toys and go to the lake, and I had the houses to service them all. And to that point where I started buying bigger houses, and I Airbnb'd them and made a killing in 2020, 2021. So yeah, I just jumped in. I didn't know what I was doing, to be completely honest.
So what have you experienced
Yeah.
now that the market on Airbnb has shifted to where there's been such an influx of
Yeah.
inventory? Have you still seen it work out well? Because at least from what I've heard, if you've got them in the right areas and they're done right, then there's still no problem with them.
Yeah. I adjusted, doing the numbers in 2022. Um, I think it was June. Market changed, obviously. Um, I said, you know what? I looked on Zillow. No rentals, no long-term rentals, crap loads of Airbnbs. I'm like, okay, so if the demand is going to be switching here, let me stop all Airbnb because we were like barely breaking even. on a couple of the properties. The Garvey house, the first one, it's paid off free and clear. And that one, it's like that one was withstanding and withholding the rest of them. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So let me do something else. So as of June 2022, I switched my three Airbnbs there because we got four places there. And the three, we are now just long-term tenants on all of them. We have a $6,200 a month cash flow that pays for our beautiful vacation house there that we do not Airbnb. That's where I keep my boat. That's where I have my toys. And that's our beautiful house that we go and visit. So that cash flow is paying for that. So we're probably positive anywhere from like $3 to $4 grand a month with all
Yeah.
expenses paid, which is cool.
So
Yeah.
there's that much of a demand for the long-term rentals in that area then, huh?
At that time, yes, 100%. I mean, Dean, three twos with a boat deep garage and a pool. I'm getting $3 grand a month.
Yeah.
So it's
And they
it's a
pencil
no
out, huh?
brainer. Yeah, my other one, the big one that I paid seven for, that one we rent out for 4,200, and my mortgage is 29 because I got a 2.8% loan on that one,
Yeah.
3% on the other one.
Dang.
So those are assets
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um,
Hmm.
okay, so you got the rentals in both those areas. That's cool. So I'm glad I asked you about Arizona because I didn't know that's kind of what was all going down there. But that's cool though. You made it work for you.
Hmm.
And it's helping you with like your lifestyle things that you like to do, right?
Oh yeah.
Which if you can make, that's one thing that I always talked about is, hey, if I can buy something in an area that I like and make it pencil, it's not just a negative on my monthly balance, but I can actually make it pencil and financially make sense, pay for itself, if not more. Well, then, dude,
Hmm.
that's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah, and principal pay down too, man. You got to remember that. Like
oh
that
yeah,
3% loan, in 10 years, you're chunking at that principal. So it made sense. And it's like, yeah, I'm good. Like, it was nice doing the Airbnb, Dean, but, it was more of a job.
yeah,
So, you know, at least for me, the other people are crushing it in Airbnbs, but hey, good for them.
yeah. Everyone's got what works for them, and doesn't mean it will
Yeah.
work for you.
Hmm.
Um, So let's talk about what else you got going on that's exciting because I know you're doing a bunch of different stuff. So you went from being a realtor to buying properties to
Hmm.
holding on to properties. How did you make that transition? How did you even learn that that was something that you should be doing? Did you have a mentor? Did you have friends that were doing it? Did you just get the bug for it or what?
No, you know what? It's a good question because everyone always has someone that tells them to do something, right? And in this case, my pops, God rest his soul, um,
Hmm.
he helped me buy my first place at 24. And he's like, if you ever have the chance, mijo, to buy, more real estate, do it. Like however you can, but you keep it. You do whatever you can to keep it. What did he say? He said, make your money, if you're waiting tables, if you're doing your normal business, figure out how to make more money there, but keep your properties, and then put the renters in there and don't hike up all the rents that people leave you. Just keep them under so they keep paying because over time it compounds, right? So I would say my pops would be the one that said, hey, go buy some real estate. He um, had bought a few. They got foreclosed on, while he was building the restaurant. So I would say that there's a lot of things I learned from him growing up about that part of it. And then um, when I bought my first property, and then I bought that second one, I'm like, okay, so if I could rent it out and it can cover the payments, cool. I always say this: I was eating beans and rice, negative cash flowing on all these properties because of the hard money interest, but I was negative $100, $200 a month times 5 or 6 of them. That's a lot of money, right? As a 24, 25-year-old kid, and or 26 years old, whatever it was. And but I knew that over time that you wouldn't be able to replace this house. $30 a square foot, Dean. $40 a square foot. $50 a square foot was the acquisition price. You can't build anything for $50 a square foot. Even back then you couldn't.
Yeah.
So hence this is like, okay, just math, right? And I did whatever I could. I wish I didn't sell like 10 properties that I sold and I made 50 grand on. I wish I would have kept them all because it's 50 grand. But it catapulted you. So everybody
You
does say
probably
that they
need,
wish it.
yeah, you probably needed it at the time. Everyone says, "Oh, I wish I would have kept everything," but if you kept everything, you wouldn't have had anything to buy the next one or the next one. And
Probably, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So
I'll
yeah, it
tease,
was
I'll
scary.
tease
It was
myself with
scary.
that idea too. I'm like, dude, all these flips, hundreds of flips that I've done, hundreds of wholesales. If I would have kept everything, I'd have so much, property that I would own. But I needed to do those deals to keep things moving.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. This is why we flip. Increase your capital, use it for the business, and then every once in a while you buy a deal or two to keep. Yeah, it's been challenging though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So what's been your experience?
That
I mean,
struggle.
has everything been, rosy red, rose petals? Have you had some like big mistakes that you've made? I know as part of my story, like I've had two really big career events where I've gotten crushed. What's been your journey like?
Well, you know what? As an investor, right? As a real estate professional and turn to investor, um, you think that everything that you buy is going to make sense. Okay, that's all of us. We think that anything we freaking touch, we're going to sell the shit and we're going to make a bunch of profit. Then we get a little bit more, I'm not going to say cocky, but more confident that we can go to a different area and make money there, and then go to another area and make money there. And I would say that is what happened to me when I had the chance to wholesale it for 20,000 bucks, positive side. Decided to keep it, to flip it because I have the crews, right? But it was in a different market, and interest rate went from 3% to 6% overnight. And what happened? Every value dropped, everything fell out of escrow, and I ended up losing 100,000 on that property. And this was in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So just recently, I actually made sure that the buyer closed before the end of the year so I can claim it as a paper loss.
Right.
And, reduce the amount of taxable income you make, which always helps out. But still not fun losing 100,000 bucks, man.
Definitely not
And,
fun.
no, and that's like career changing event for some people.
Yeah.
And even for me, I'm like, damn, that hurt because I have money allocated for other projects and now I
Okay.
gotta
Yeah,
come
totally.
up with more money, you know?
Yep.
So that would be something that has happened. Now tenants, along with that too, you get tenants that don't pay for freaking 11, 12 months, multiply that by 3, you're losing 60,000 bucks just in rent coming in. And then plus, the eviction process. So that's something else that happens as a real estate investor, but everybody wants to do it, right, Dean? It's all sexy. It's all
Yeah.
badass. Everybody wants to be the investor. And, they think it's not going to happen to them.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Everybody makes it look easy. And then once you're doing it, it's like, well, everything's going to go perfect and great.
Uh-huh.
There's a little more to it. And there's certainly ways to make sure that you de-risk each deal you do. Usually it just comes down to not fudging the numbers, staying in your lane, not trying to be Superman or Superwoman and do something that you haven't done before.
Yep.
So yeah, no,
That's crazy, man.
it's pretty funny. So what are some of the things you're working on now? What are you most excited about? What are the things that you're like, I'm getting out of bed, fired up about this? What does that look like?
That's awesome. You should ask because you know what it is now, being in the games a little bit longer and knowing a little bit more. Um, I want to figure out ways to increase cash flow every single month. So I take a look at the portfolio, find out what's performing, but maybe could be performing more or could be performing with the money that's in there. So this is something that a lot of investors don't look at. And if they do, fucking awesome. The cost of money that's sitting in a property versus the cost of you having that money, putting it somewhere else, how much more of a percentage are you going to be able to make per month, right? Your cash on cash return. Like as an example, this is what's like striking me in my energy is like, how can I change my 10 SFRs into 50 or 60 doors and catapult my cash flow with the same money that's invested? Nothing changes except I lose the one door to turn into four, to turn into eight. Because this is where a lot of us will just stay put, at least my perception of it. And the cost of the deal, like my deal that I paid $30,000 for, well, I've already made 300K, right, on it just based on income, right, the last 11, 12 years. But the money that's sitting there is another 300 and some K. So if I took that 300K and put it somewhere else, my $1,400 a month, income is now 4 grand a month income. So am I really doing the right thing here? So this is kind of what I'm looking at now. It's like, well, that $1,400 in cash every month is cool, but the cost of me not moving it is $3,000 a month.
Trading it up, right?
Does that make sense? Trading it
Yeah.
up, exactly.
Yeah. You got my juices
And
flowing
that's the
here. You're
crazy
making
part.
me think about that.
I'm telling you, because no one talks about it. And now over the last 6 months to a year, I'm like, what's not performing? Oh, this one's not, this one's not. How much money do I have in there that I'm going to start using somewhere else? So this is where I'm super excited about right now because we're buying 15 units. We're buying three fourplexes and a triplex. On my story today, I posted something that we're buying it that I'm trading up a $200,000 available equity, right? That I cost segregated that property that I saved $40,000 in taxes. So I'm 1031 exchanging that chunk into these 3 units. Now my payment's going to be like, I don't know, 25 or 3 grand. So it's going to be making anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500 in positive cash flow on that one change. If I keep the house, it's only making me at the most, I'm making $1,600, maybe $1,500 in positive cash flow. So I'm like almost tripling, doubling for sure, but doubling in a half with the same amount of money that's there.
Dude, that's cool, man.
So now I'm doing this multiplied over all the SFRs and small little units that we got. And I'm like, okay, now I can see myself getting to, a buck, 100K clear a month by doing this over the course of the next, 12 to 18 months, just by doing that.
Dude, this interview right now, it might have changed my life, dude, just hearing that. Even though it's a simple concept, even though I've probably heard it one time or another, I haven't heard it recently enough to make it be like, holy crap, that's some good stuff.
Yeah.
I like that, dude. And there's got to be someone listening to this right now too that's like, all right, that's what I needed to hear, right? That was the one thing I'm going to start looking at right this second.
Because why are we doing it for, right? We want the cash flow, right?
Yeah.
It's the opportunity cost that's lost, or it's the opportunity that's lost if the money's not working. And we're trying to maximize all of our capital to give us the best return. That's the name of the game. Increase our income, right? Flipping and wholesaling, buying property. What's my cash on cash return on this project, that project, right? Because our cash on cash return for flipping is stupid. is absolutely done. 40, 50% returns on the money invested, right? But then your capital gained and everything else. But on long term, you're bypassing all of that because you cost segregate your deals. You now move up to something else. And what's it do? It adds 8,000 bucks extra a month in pure cash
Yeah.
without working.
Ooh, man. You got my
Yeah.
wheels turning. I'm excited about this. I'm gonna go look at this. I got a spreadsheet full of rentals that I'm gonna start looking at and say, what can I trade up? Now,
Yeah.
let's talk about that tactically. Um,
Yeah.
how do you figure out what you can trade up for? Um,
Yeah.
for someone that's not maybe looking at it every day, maybe they have a rental, a couple rentals, like where do they start looking? How can you go trade up?
In your market, well, this is the thing, okay? I don't buy out of state, okay, except Arizona. I haven't got into that Oklahoma, Columbus, Ohio, East Coast stuff yet, which I'm tempted to, but because the cost of entry is so low and your cash flow is so high,
Yeah.
and it doesn't appreciate like California and Arizona, but does that matter? So you gotta figure that. I would say like if you're gonna trade up, then if you have a California based property, and you have a lot of equity, then strongly look into a different market for the cash flow purpose alone. Because at the end of the day, cash flow is what's gonna pay your bills. Your appreciation doesn't. Cash flow pays your bills, appreciation does not. It's a cool look because you have all this fake money that's there, right? In an equity position, but not in a true financial increase to my top line every monthly, amount. So that's something you have to like consider. And I think that I just gave myself the chills by discussing this because now I will be taking care of more of my California based properties that are going to appreciate or that have appreciated like crazy and taking that and literally probably peppering them around the Midwest or Ohio, Columbus, wherever, right? Where there's a cash flow that's going to be substantially different because that's what pays your bills. And that's what gets you more wealth is the increasing of cash flow, not equity. So I don't know. I guess hopefully that helps.
Yeah. You're going to get different opinions on that without question.
For sure. For
There's
sure.
some people who buy just on equity and will go negative cash flow. I don't understand that. That hurts my head. They're literally writing a check every month to own that property. But yeah, man, you got me real excited about that. So have you spent time looking in some of these other markets yet? Or you just start,
Uh-huh.
you're at the, okay. The
Yeah, I have.
fourplex,
I'm
the
looking. Yeah.
fourplex, the 15 units, where's that at?
It's three fourplexes
Yep.
all next door to each other. Three different APN numbers. Wholesaler brought it to me. I'm like, all day, I'll buy them. I'm 1031 exchanging them because I already had it in my head. And they're in my same market in Hesperia.
Okay.
It's gonna, this is the cool part about when you buy larger units, when you increase all the rents to, let's just say 500 bucks, right? 500 bucks times 12, that's $6,000. $6,000 times 12 in a year, 72K annually. That ends up, well, what does that cost? Like maybe $1 million worth of worth on those 12 units,
Depending
million
on what the
two,
cap rates are, yeah, it can
point 0.6, let's
exponentially,
just
yeah.
say, not a nine, not a 10, let's just say conservative, a six. And if it's point 0.6, then yeah, it's about a $1.2 million increase. That's $400,000 each unit in equity. Doesn't mean anything, right? Because you're not cash flowing. But if you chose to then sell 1031 exchange, you now got $1.2 million that you're moving into plus your other money, right? So that's kind of where I'm looking at it in a 2 year span here. That I'll take those 12 units and I'll probably buy 50 units just based on the extra $1.2, $1.3 million a difference, right?
Yeah.
Because you're trading up. So that's in my area in Hesperia, and then the other triplex is in Apple Valley, which I went there today, and yeah, that'll be a great positive cash flow property for sure. And I'm only selling one house to get that triplex. I'm selling two homes to get the 12 units. So I went from 2 to 12, 1 to 3.
That's
So it's pretty
cool,
cool.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Let's end with talking about relationships because you're a guy who I've continued to see at different events as I've put myself more out there. And there's no mistake that you're having success. You're around other successful people. Put two and two together, get around successful people. What happens? So, why don't you talk to me a little bit about your journey? Like, have you always been a networker? Have you always been going to events? Did you just start doing it? What has that been like for you?
Yeah, no, I haven't been a networker. That's for damn sure. Um, I just kept in my lane. But I would always ask the people that had more than me, I would ask them if they were open to sharing some ideas or pointers. I don't think until social media really came about that I don't think nobody networked. And if they did, the network that I was used to was just my clients at the table of our restaurant,
Hmm.
asking them questions like the old school, like, hey, let's talk. Like, what do you got going on? What do you got this and this, that, and the other? He owns, 500 or 5,000 freaking storage units. What do you got going on? Like stuff like that. But lately, I think if you put yourself out there in different rooms, and the biggest thing is though, too, Dana, I'll tell you this, and anybody that's watching, remove your fucking ego. Okay. That's what I'll tell you straight up because everybody has one. Yes. Everybody can dial it up whenever they choose to. Okay. But the minute you do, you become a student and you actually listen and you actually pay attention to something that could help you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being in the other rooms of people that are doing more than you kind of get yourself humbled already because what you think you're doing great in a year, the guy's doing in a month,
Right.
or that girl is doing in a month or a quarter. Like, so this way there's always levels, man. That's why I'm like, hey, tell me what I need to know. I will like I'm all ears. Let's go. Like you right now, like, hey, you got my wheels turning about checking out your portfolio. Well, guess what? You've heard it before, right? But maybe now because we're connected and it was conveyed a little different that I'm actually doing it, right? You're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, shit, I could do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now, yeah, it's going to end up being a game changer for you. 100%. Anybody that's listening. But the thing is, you got to be open to like learning more and open up that parachute. Your mind's not going to work unless it's open.
Yeah. I love that. That's
So
good.
I don't know. I
That
mean,
that is the
I
key.
can go on and on, Dean.
That's the key right there is you gotta leave the ego at the door and be a learner, be an active learner, be always willing to listen, receive new information, digest it how you need to. But if you're always
Right.
willing to learn and receive new information and don't assume you know it all, that's that's where the magic happens. That's where the magic
100%.
happens. And when you're around a bunch of other people that are doing the same, that are doing cool stuff too, then it's just like it's a giving fest. Like everybody's just giving
Yes.
and receiving value, and it's a magical thing. So yeah, man, it's been really cool to see at the events recently, and um,
Yeah,
success leaves clues. So
for sure it does. I like that. We'll end on that one. That one's perfect. Success does leave clues for sure.
yes, it
Yep.
does. Well, dude, it's been an
Yep.
absolute pleasure to have you on. I've been so, happy to stay connected with you. I know we're just scratching the surface, like on our relationship. I know there's more to discover and spend more time together, like finding different ways to collaborate and do stuff like that. But really appreciate you coming on. I know there were some serious nuggets that we got into that I'm stoked about that the listeners would have heard. So again, if you want to connect with Omar, you can go find him online, Invest with Omar. He has tons of great content, lots of engagement on his social media. So definitely go check him out there. Any last words?
Yeah, I appreciate the time, Dean. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope something helped from this podcast, this interview. And we're all trying to learn something too. So we're all open book, and I'm open to help anybody that wants to reach out. So you guys
All
all
right, man.
crush it today.
Let's do it. All right,
Let's
guys.
go.
Until next time. Peace.